All right, good morning. I actually said, let me get this working. There we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's been an eventful day here in lovely Boise, Idaho already. Yeah, I got a call from my sister at like 5 this morning. Anyway, so that was lovely. Yeah, so I'm running on caffeine and adrenaline, it turns out. So we'll see how this goes today. I should have made more coffee though. As you come into the stream, please say hi in chat. I appreciate knowing who's around. If there's anything special you would like to discuss, I think I might have teased. I don't know if I did. We could talk about Breeze, of course. I had an interesting comment this morning. I gotta check my video settings. Yeah, see, my resolution's way too high. I don't know if I can change that on the fly or not. All right, so you may or may not have seen a resolution change. I think I'm kind of probably locked in. I'm not going to restart it though. So, David Lazarus, good morning or good afternoon, I should say. I think you're back. I think it's afternoon. Let's see, it is 10 o'clock here. I don't know if you're on British summertime yet, so that would make it, 4 or 5 in the afternoon in the lovely UK. So welcome, David. Oh, I need a little more volume than that, I think. And I got Nick S. Nick, welcome. Right on. So yeah, like I said, been a lovely morning. But let's get into the misery map. Let's start there. Which is always the fun place to start, especially when you're about to take a flight. So I'm on a flight tomorrow going up to Canada. Oh, Canada. And the hockey playoffs start as well. So kind of interested. I'll be headed to Winnipeg tomorrow. So I'm hoping to, I don't know if the Jets play tomorrow or Monday. I think they play the Vegas Golden Knights. So that could be fun, being in Canada during the playoffs, where hockey is the national pastime, national sport. Let's go to the 2 box. Hey, it worked. All right. So at least that's working. Yes, still 5 p.m. When do you guys switch over to summertime? I'm wondering. It's got to be coming up, I would think. Anyway, not that it really matters. The misery map. Fort Lauderdale is the winner today. I'm guessing that they are probably still in recovery mode from their recent flooding. I have a story about that we'll go over. Denver comes in second today, followed by Houston. And based on the weather map here, you can see, you might be able to see, hopefully you can see, Houston having some weather issues. So that makes some sense to me, that they would have some delays. Atlanta, busiest airport, I believe busiest in the world still. So Atlanta, you get any problems in Atlanta and they tend to ripple. So let's see, Dallas, Seattle having delays. Looks like a little weather coming into the northwest. I am supposed to have a 65 degrees in Boise today, so very much looking forward to that. Might be headed outside for a lovely cigar later in the afternoon. So we shall see about that. I got yard work coming out of my ears, so I got to do some yard work. It's basically it's spring. So enough of the misery map. I don't really find it that interesting. Let's refresh the delays. Looks like Delta is having 212 flights have been delayed by Delta, or from, because Delta has had that many delays. Our friends at Wings a Body, 30% of their flights are delayed. Batik Air, 36% of their flights are delayed. China Eastern, British Airways is having a bad day, 30% of their flights. I believe some strikes happening in Europe. I wonder if British Airways is getting struck. Azul Brazilian, 14%. Lion Air, 44% delayed. That's not good. That almost seems like a network problem. 29% Virgin Australia. Wonder if Australia's having weather. Fly Dubai, JetBlue, Qantas, LATAM. No delays, but one cancellation. Or one delay. Anyway, so they're having a good day. Let's check worldwide delays. Refresh this. London Gatwick. Currently experiencing departure delays an average of 28 minutes and getting longer. Newark Liberty. Traffic volume, that's not a big surprise. Fort Lauderdale, aircraft arrival delays and inbound flights delayed at their origin, an average of 1 hour and 24 minutes. Yee. Zurich. Don Miguel Hidalgo. Benito Juarez International. General Mariano Escobedo. So Mexico's having problems. Shenzhen International. Another one in China. Look, China. So yeah, a lot of delays. And this little weather map here, that looks worse. I see in chat, David says lots of strikes in Europe. I hear that they were doing lots of strikes. I think most of France is having some sort of strike or something. I saw a picture of garbage all over the sidewalks. So just kind of nasty. At least it's not summertime yet and they're rotting on the sidewalk. Yeah, so Zurich, which we saw, going back over to the east. We're down here, Fort Lauderdale, Guadalajara, Mexico City, and then over here in the east, Shanghai. Is that Shanghai? Oh, it refreshed on me. PVG, is that Shanghai? PVG, is that on my list here? I thought you could click on that. Anyway, so delays. Looks like a fairly typical. Seems less delays overall than the last couple months at least. So Nick asks, do I know how TSA wants to do a pat down? I'm hoping this is a joke or a setup for a joke. I do not. And I do know that I think you can opt out of the regular screening and get a pat down instead of going through the detectors. I don't know. Maybe Nick, go fill me in. PVG is Shanghai. Thanks, David. That's what I was thinking it was, but I didn't want to throw that out there and be wrong. I hate being wrong. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. It looks like I was planning on live streaming this, but I will not be at my desk, and therefore I will not be able to live stream this. It looks like, it looks like Starship flight test is scheduled for 7 a.m. Central Time, or at least the launch window opens 7 a.m. Central Time on Monday, the 17th. I will be in Winnipeg at that time, which I think is probably the same time zone. So I might try to watch it on my phone, but I won't be able to live stream it. I'm not planning on bringing a computer or laptop or anything. I have a Chromebook, but I don't know if it's capable of live streaming or not. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to bring it, just more stuff to bring. But if you are up and about at or around 7 a.m. Central Time, there will be plenty of streams. Personally, I prefer the Starship flight test. I prefer the SpaceX streams. Unless you're really into one of the other, like NASA Spaceflight or something like that. Anyway, I like the SpaceX stream personally. So, all right. Nick has said, after the screen, some people get padded. Either they look nervous or the screen sees something. So if they're going through the one where you put your hands up like this, and it has a little bar that like swings on either side of you, that thing, if you've ever looked at that after you've gone through it, if there's something that it detects that it doesn't like, it will highlight an area on like a stick figure. And so I'm guessing that after you go through, and if there's a little thing that is highlighted, that they probably pat you down in that area. That's my guess. Excuse me. When I go through, because I have pre-check, I go through pre-check. It's just a metal detector. So I don't have to do this, that, whatever that little x-ray, whatever that thing is. I do remember when those first started coming out, there were people selling these like metallic, I guess they're probably metallic, patches that you could put on your body. I don't know why you would ever intentionally do this, because you're just asking for trouble from the TSA. But they had like fig leaves that you could put over your private parts. I think they had like pasties for the ladies, stuff like that. Because they were thinking that that scanner was showing an actual naked image of the person. Maybe it can see through your clothes. I don't really know, but anyway, that to me that was always seemed silly, because you're just guaranteeing that you're gonna get extra attention from TSA. So lots of pat downs. Yeah, most people are. I say this and I watch this. There are a lot of. Most people are very nervous when they travel. The fear of crashing and burning, I think, obsesses a lot of people. You fly enough, I don't think you experience that anymore. I really like hanging out in the airports and watching people. I prefer it when I'm not delayed. Yeah, so to me, it's not a big deal to travel. Obviously, I do it quite a bit, but a lot of people get very nervous when they travel. So anyway, have a little water, coffee. All right, let's move on to the news. I don't know that I have the most up to date news necessarily, but since we saw this on the misery map, this is a lot of rain. Record rain flooding shuts Florida's Fort Lauderdale airport. Please don't come hoping to get on an airplane, Broward County Mayor Lamar Fisher said. We hope to be operating again by Friday. We're cautious but optimistic. So this was published on, let's see, today's the 15th. So Friday was the 14th. So the 13th was Thursday. So yeah, it appears that they are still probably not quite all the way back to normal. A major South Florida airport remained closed to all flights on Thursday following record-breaking rainfall and flooding. The Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, which first shut down on Wednesday, said it would remain closed until at least 5 a.m. on Friday, the airport tweeted. Due to the volume of flooding and debris on Fort Lauderdale's airfields, the airport will remain closed for flight activity today. This will allow airport staff to work to restore partial operations on one runway, providing current conditions do not worsen. Wow. Travelers should not come to the airport prior to checking with their airlines for updated flight status. So I'm guessing a lot of people will probably headed to Florida for spring break, so they are out of luck. That's really too bad. Excuse me. Several airlines issued waivers for people traveling in the Fort Lauderdale area, including Delta, United, JetBlue, Spirit, and Southwest. Photos of the airport, reported by the Florida Sun Sentinel, show the runway looking more like a lake than a runway as planes remain parked nearby. Let's see if I can see some photos. That's Red Cross. That does not look like an airport photo. Where's the photos? Photos! Nearly 26 inches of rain. Wow. Yeah, so if that's the airport, that's a lot of rain. And it's so low. Oh, wow, look at that. Can I make that bigger? I can't. You probably can't see that very well. Got a Delta flight on the taxiway with the downtown Fort Lauderdale area. That is nuts. Why can't I get better pictures? South Florida Sentinel. Anyway, I'm glad I'm not going to Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to Canada so I could get some snow, which would be disappointing. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that sucks. I feel bad for the people flying to Florida. And if you're stuck in Florida, I don't think the rules in the United States, if weather cancels a flight, I don't think the airlines are required to pay for any sort of compensation. So it's a little different scenario than I had. But yeah, so feel bad for those people. If you're already in Florida and you just got rained on too, so it's not even normally staying someplace nice like that would be okay, but yeah, not this time. Um, David says Florida is also sinking, so flooding is more common every year. I saw this like a crazy video where like an underwater sinkhole opened up and swallowed a bunch of trees. I don't know if that was in Florida, but yeah, that's spooky. The ground can just. I have heard that there are lots of sinkholes in Florida, so the ground can just like open up and swallow your house. That's a little spooky. I think that has to do with the fact that most of the ground is like limestone. I think so. Not good. So hopefully nobody watching is or has been going to Fort Lauderdale because it's going to be a while, especially based on the misery map here. Fort Lauderdale is still leading the pack. Yeah, that's not good. That's really too bad. I thought they'd have some photos. Anyway, let's move on. So, JetBlue is ignoring the fact that they are being sued by the government. And they are moving forward with their merger plans. So JetBlue announces another prepayment to Spirit stockholders. Never really wanted to be a Spirit stockholder until they were starting to hand out money, but I wonder if some of my holdings or mutual funds have Spirit. Anyway, JetBlue has announced plans to make additional prepayment to Spirit Airlines stockholders this April. JetBlue agreed to a $3.8 billion merger with the ultra low cost carrier last summer in a move that would create the nation's fifth largest airline. However, the deal has encountered hurdles in the months since, with the U.S. Department of Justice recently suing to block the acquisition. Yeah, the government should be suing. That's a good use of their time, Justice Department. The airline appears to be moving forward with the deal, nonetheless, issuing a prepayment to Spirit stockholders for 10 cents per Spirit share last month. JetBlue announced plans for another prepayment on Friday. 10 cents per share. I don't know what a share of Spirit is going for right now. Maybe it'll say in here. As previously announced in connection with the agreement and plan of merger dated as of July 28, 2022, by and among JetBlue Airways Corporation, Sundown Acquisition Corp., and Spirit Airlines Inc., JetBlue has set April 24, 2023 as the record date for the April 2023 prepayment to Spirit stockholders of 10 cents per Spirit share, with payment of the April 2023 additional prepayment to occur on April 28, 2023. Pursuant to the merger agreement, Spirit stockholders, blah, 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 blah. All right. While the DOJ fears a JetBlue Spirit merger will reduce competition, leading to higher airfares for travelers, the airline claims that JetBlue's combination with Spirit allows it to create a compelling national challenger to those dominant airlines, while also ensuring low-cost carrier options remain available in overlap markets. It's interesting. Last time I looked for flights are getting more and more expensive, not cheaper. So I have a hard time believing that a JetBlue Spirit merger is going to cause tickets to go up even further. I had a comment on one of my videos. I think it was this video that says, hey, look, there's David commented. Mr. Motel 99 says, I really wish we had a lot more airlines so they had to compete. We've seen too much consolidation in the industry that they all think they can suck because we have no choice. I can't argue with that. Why doesn't United or Delta fly from Dallas to Las Vegas? Because they have handshake deals with AA not to complete. It's a joke. This is my opinion only. I suspect there's a little bit of truth to that. Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree. I think a JetBlue Spirit merger in the end benefits the people who own JetBlue. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. Whether it will benefit the customer, that's to be seen. That's where all of that stuff that I've been kind of railing about this week called customer service comes into play. When you are on an airline, or when you're spending your money on someone else's product, whether that be an airline flight, whether that be dinner and a show, whatever, if you are treated like the product and not the customer, that becomes a problem. And I think people will then find another place to go. That's that whole kind of free market thing. The market will decide who wins and who loses in the end. Will a merger of JetBlue and Spirit make that better or worse? I don't know. Delta, American, and United are so big at this point that and frankly, even Southwest is so big at this point that I don't know. I don't know. I do miss the old days of my Northwest Airlines. I think the last time, I used to fly them a lot because I was in the Seattle area and then I lived in Wisconsin. So those were Northwest territories, literally. David says the FAA should be breaking up the airlines. Yeah, perhaps you're right. There's a lot of new competitors these days, like Breeze, and I think I keep harping on this. If Breeze had a more resilient model / infrastructure, I think they could be very successful. Their in-flight service is great, but again, I said it on the video. The ground game is their weakness. They clearly don't have the ground infrastructure to be a resilient airline. Not that a big airline won't screw you too, but David says the free market only works if there are sufficient alternatives. It's a rigged market right now. Yeah. Generally, I tend to look at free market alternatives. I think they were a lot better before COVID occurred. I think we saw a lot of alternatives go out of business or get absorbed into bigger conglomerates during COVID. Honestly, that just seems to be a lot of what happened. That is my opinion only. But yeah, it's one of those disappointing things that came out of one of the many disappointing things that came out of COVID. People switched their shopping habits in one example to Amazon. I mean, a lot of people, or Walmart, they did very well through COVID, where a lot of these alternative groceries and stores went out of business and are either that or they're really struggling. So, yeah. I guess that's all I got to say about that. So, again, any thoughts? Throw them into the chat. So yeah, stay tuned on the JetBlue thing. I still think that the Department of Justice, it's such an ironic name in my opinion, should be focusing on other things more than a merger. Is there like Federal Trade Commission or something that should be, or even the FAA should be the one addressing that, not the Department of Justice? I thought the Department of Justice was law enforcement, so I'm not quite sure why they are interested in a merger of two companies. Seems like that's the wrong agency. Just my opinion. So this came through my feed. Boeing halts delivery of some 737 MAX aircraft as Southwest will be impacted. Poor Boeing. I mean, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. I don't really feel bad for Boeing necessarily, but they keep kind of screwing themselves. You keep having problems, but people keep buying their product. Boeing company shares fell as much as 7% on Friday after the plane maker halted deliveries of some 737 MAX jets due to quality-related problems with certain components made by one of its main suppliers. We discussed this, it might have been last week or the week before when they were, we talked a little bit about the 787 delays, where Boeing ultimately is an integrator of aircraft components. They build a very small percentage of the actual aircraft. And so if a supplier has an issue, Boeing has an issue. Conversely, like in the old days, it was all built by Boeing. Now they just they're the Tinker Toy assembler these days. So, meanwhile, Southwest Airlines expects an ongoing 737 Boeing MAX manufacturer problem to delay some plane deliveries this year, Southwest said. Boeing is under tough regulatory scrutiny following the deadly crashes of its MAX planes in 18 and 19, and the pause in deliveries may delay plans for production ramp-up as it needs to undertake inspections of affected jets, some analysts said. Yeah, this is not another bad thing for Boeing. I haven't heard if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going these days. Yeah. From a passenger comfort perspective, I would rather fly on an A320 than a 737, but anyway, that's just me. Excuse me. Any delays in deliveries is likely to upset airlines that have been counting on the company for a timely supply of planes to boost their fleets. Yeah, I think Southwest is, with inflation these days, and yes, I do believe there is inflation. Everything costs more. Planes cost more. Fuel costs more. I think one of the biggest outlays for any airline is going to be fuel. Boeing was poised to raise the production of its best-selling family of jets to 38 in June and 42 by January from 31 per month currently. 31 737s a month. That's one a day. That's nuts. The problem disclosed by Boeing on Thursday involves the installation of two fittings that join the aft fuselage made by Swift Aerosystems to the vertical tail, which were not attached correctly to the structure of the fuselage before it was sent to the plane maker. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have read that. That's bad. Let me see. Am I flying any Maxes this week? I don't think I am. That's bad. Yeah, planes don't do well if the tail and or vertical stabilizer don't stay connected. Airbus had that issue with the A330s back in the day. So the latest quality issue is the second such problem to plague the plane maker this year after it was briefly forced to halt deliveries of 767 freighters. I don't think I heard about that one. The recent discoveries can be attributed to two main factors: less experienced workers, which we've talked about ad nauseum. I think that's why we're having all these near misses as well. Less experienced workers and more rigorous inspections of aircraft before delivery. So, yay for inspections. Boeing, together with Spirit, will have to undertake inspections of the affected MAX 7, MAX 8, and MAX 8200 airplanes and fuselages. So that's Spirit Aerosystems, not Spirit Airlines, since Spirit Airlines flies Airbuses. Unlike the recent 787 delivery pause in Q1, this issue relates to actual non-conforming parts which will need to be inspected at a minimum or reworked. Yikes, this likely points to a longer pause this time. Boy, that's bad. Akers, however, added that the impact could be short-term in nature and that Boeing may push its 2023 cash flow goal of $3 billion to $5 billion toward the lower end. Shares of Spirit were down more than 20% on Friday. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that would lead me as a company executive of Boeing to maybe see if there's a better place I could get my parts from. Anyway, we will see more negative financial exposure to this news at Spirit than at Boeing. The issue could weigh on the fleet expansion plans of the airlines. Southwest Airlines expects the issue to impact its current delivery schedule, while American Airlines said it was working with Boeing to understand the effect. So, I feel like I'm pretty connected to the airline industry. I don't recall hearing anything related to quality problems for the Airbus planes coming out of Mobile, Alabama. Are they still building planes in Mobile, Alabama? Anyone know? Maybe they move that back to Europe with COVID. If anybody knows, put that in the chat because I'm really curious about that. But I don't ever hear any of these stories for Airbus. And maybe in France, in Toulouse, they are reported there. But I don't hear these stories related to many Airbus aircraft. And maybe I'm just not aware. Maybe I will be after this. What's that called? It's now it's on my reticular. I think that's what my wife calls that. Anyway, we are in discussions with Boeing to understand what the impact will be in 2023 and beyond. Southwest, which exclusively flies the 737, initially expected to receive 100 planes from Boeing this year, but the company dropped that projection down to 90 jets, according to regulatory filings published by the company on March 14th. Yeah, craziness. Like I said, I don't see these stories from or related to Airbus, and maybe I'm just not really aware. Maybe I'll have to do a deeper dive into that. But it's interesting to me that I haven't heard that, so I don't know. I do not know. Let's check the chat. David says they have had quality control problems with its suppliers for a long time now. Yeah, I think Boeing needs to have better oversight of their suppliers. David also adds the MAX crashes weren't down to quality control, but bad design. Yes, that was an engineering flaw that got through all of the testing. Nick asks, why do I like the A320 over 737? So the 737 fuselage is, I believe, 8 or 10 inches more narrow than the A320. So if, next time you fly on a 737, and if you're like me, you're on the window, your armrest will be on the fuselage, inner fuselage panel. When you fly in an A320, probably there's going to be a small gap there. And so one of my most memorable and worst flights I've had, I got to sit, I'm not a teeny tiny guy by any means, but I got to sit next to two guys that I think were from Samoa. And they were wider than I was. They were more circular in shape. Let's just say it that way. And so I got to spend the flight pressed against the fuselage. And so at that point, I started paying attention, and the Airbus fuselage is actually just a little bit wider. So you get a little bit more room. So next time you fly the 737, look at that, and then you fly an A320, look at that, and you'll see if you're on the wall, it's a little bit wider. If you're in the middle seat, it doesn't matter. And if you're on the aisle seat, then you have all that room. But if you're me and you're almost always on a window, that's when you really notice that. So that's my preference. James Smith is in. Good morning, James. Let's see. David says, I think the 787 had problems with the tail section being likely to fall off. A gap between the tail and main cabin. Yikes. Yeah. Planes need that vertical stabilizer to fly properly, turns out. Airbus have occasionally had problems currently skin of the A350, but most are minor. Yeah, there was some issue with, what was it, Emirates, or Qatar, however it's properly pronounced. I don't know. They were having some issues with the paint adhering because the skin wasn't doing quite right. James Smith asks, did they serve meals on Breeze on their first class? Sorry, I missed it. Not that I plan on flying them after that video. I think they had. I think in first class you could have gotten one of the snack boxes gratis or part of your fare. No meal per se, and I don't expect that to be a feature from Breeze anytime soon. If they didn't have a meal on a transcontinental flight, I don't think they're going to have meals. The snack boxes, I think, are the fare of the day. And I remember looking at the menu for the snack box, and it was mostly stuff that I couldn't eat or didn't want to eat. And so rather than waste the snack box, I have done that in the past with Delta, where they gave me snack boxes. One of those flights was pretty cool because the flight attendant actually gave me 2 different snack boxes. So between the 2, I managed to cobble together like 1 snack box worth of food. So, yeah, so that wasn't bad. So no meals. Yeah. So it looks like you watched part of the video. If you're going to watch any part of the video, go to the timeline and just watch my rant at the end. I suspect, at least for me, that was the most, let's call that cathartic, when I could vent about Breeze and how absurd I thought they were. There was a good comment today. I don't know, that person's probably not in chat here, but where they defended the fact that I only was offered $125. So, good for you. I still think I got screwed by the airline, and I'm going to maintain that stance. There's a possibility. I have. I know someone who knows someone who is one of the owners of Breeze, so there's a chance that they might be presented my video, and yeah. So I'm curious to see if I get any direct Breeze reaction from a real human. Those comments I got just feel bot-like to me. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I quite enjoyed my little rant at the end. As I said, it was cathartic. David says, I think the A320 also has larger windows. I think I'm gonna call you on that one, David. I'm almost positive, and I'd have to look this up, but having just recently flown on the 2, I'm almost positive that the 737 actually has bigger windows. The inner window portal might be bigger, but the actual exterior window on the A320, I swear, is smaller. But we could look that up. Maybe maybe while you're watching, listening, you could look that up. I swear my brain tells me that the A320 has smaller windows. A350, on the other hand, has gigantic windows. 787, also gigantic windows. Frankly, the A220 has gigantic windows. That's why I said Breeze was just, I so much wanted Breeze to be good, because the A220 is one of my favorite airplanes. I think it's a really cool airplane. It's actually, I mean, obviously it's Bombardier built and designed the thing. A C series originally, if you didn't know that. But yeah, thank you, David. David says my rant was relevant. I just, yeah, it's bad customer service deserves to be called out, I think. And if I say something that's wrong and inaccurate, please call me on that too, because I don't claim to be perfect. I've made many mistakes in my lifetime. So James Smith says it's kind of weird because their CEO founded JetBlue and is known as a quality-driven guy. Disappointing what you went through. Thank you. Yeah, I like I said, the in-flight experience is really good. Because I really was expecting a low-cost experience. I wasn't expecting a meal in first class. But the crew were very nice and friendly. One thing I didn't actually put in the video is the crew once the boarding door was closed, offered the first class seats for, gosh, like $50 to passengers in the back, which is probably, I think I paid 75 to move from the nicer to the nicest. So the nicer would be like a Comfort Plus Premium Economy seat. So it was $50 to move up to first class instead of 75. Unless the crew kept that money. Never thought of that until just now. But once you're on the plane and the doors closed, who knows? I have, that is pure speculation. If I was a news reporter, it would be reported. I could say this is speculation, but it would be reported as fact. But I'm not a news reporter, and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So David says it might be the A220. I do know the A220 has nice big windows. Again, it's a super cool airplane. I think it's cool. It is weird when any of these next gen aircraft have gear driven turbofans. They kind of growl when they spool up to take off. There's this kind of like they complain. It sounds like because it's all the gears and everything, the gear train spinning up. But yeah, so they have a weird noise. Of course, Airbuses in general have that kind of weird noise when they're starting up. So. Excuse me. Yeah, so I get over my cold finally, and then it starts to get warm, and my allergies start kicking in. So I love the summertime, but I'm not a big fan of the spring. So, all right, that is the extent of my articles. Yeah. So if you guys have any last chat, any last questions. I got a couple notifications. Hey, I'm live right now. All right. Any last questions? Otherwise, I will be getting out of here and getting to my yard, I think, because it is quite the mess. I'm seeing none. So I will be, as I said, no stream next week. I will be traveling back from Canada. If you have any train tips, because you are a train traveler, David might be. Any tips for me? I'll be getting on the train on Monday, and I don't think there's Wi-Fi on the train. I think there's a very limited cell coverage because we're going to be traveling through the Canadian Rockies. Yeah. So I think I may be out of touch for a couple days here. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, I'm still trying to figure how I want to break up, or if I want to break up the train trip, because I boarded the train at, I think, 8 p.m. on Monday, and I get off at, I believe, 8 a.m. on Thursday. So I have like 3 evenings, 3 sleeps, and 2 full days with a little bit on either side. So yeah, I've got some lots of time to take pictures of the Canadian Rockies, enjoy the train experience. I hope I like it. I'm actually a little nervous. I'm not quite sure. Being in a plugged in world with Wi-Fi all the time, I'm not really sure what I'm bringing. I got books, obviously. I love taking pictures, so yeah. Let's see. Last check of comments. Maximus Aviation did a video about airport near misses. Nick says it seems like the A320 passenger feels a jolt in the back of the plane during takeoff. And David says, watch videos about VIA beforehand, get some tips. Yeah, I did. That's why I think there is no Wi-Fi, and because it's very remote, I don't think there's a lot of cell phone coverage. I plan on downloading some movies and stuff onto my phone. May take my laptop. I don't. With no Wi-Fi, it's kind of a waste. But yeah, do some reading, take some pictures, nap, relax, hang out with other passengers. So yeah, I've got my little So I decided, I don't think I've shown these to anybody, but you can really see the little black. I don't know what those little black squares are, but when I travel, I get a lot of questions about the nicest are, oh, so you're recording something, and the worst are, what are you doing? I've gotten that a few times. So I made these little cards that I can hand out, and I don't know if I can. I don't think my camera will focus on it. Oh, there it goes. So I hand these out to people who ask me what I'm doing. So you can see this trip on YouTube, and so I put my little YouTube there, and I put a QR code on the back. There's a QR code. Beep. So people can just scan the QR code and it'll take you directly to my channel. So I'll be handing a few of these out on the Canadian trip, I believe. Since I upgraded my camera game a little bit. At least I hope this is an upgrade. I'm going full GoPro on the situation these days. I've got my wireless microphone. So hopefully if you didn't know, I use my cell phone on most of the last 10 trip reports. Still going to do some cell phone, but walking around the airports and doing that kind of stuff. Room tours, we'll be doing GoPro. It came with a little light as well. So yeah, hopefully that is a step up. Hopefully my video game gets a little bit improved. You all will be the judge. If you so the Canadian trips will mostly be filmed on the GoPro. Please let me know when they come out, good, bad, or other. So the first Canadian flight will be posted probably on, let's see, I'm traveling probably not until May 3rd, the way the dates work out. So stay tuned for that. Next week will be video from, I'm trying to think what I'm going to do. I think the MGM review will be next week, MGM Grand in Vegas, then my Spirit Airlines flight, and then I put together a things to do in Vegas video if you're not a gambler, because I do know people go to Vegas who when they don't gamble. So my son is not of age and he doesn't gamble, so it's kind of a compilation of what we did plus some other options. So hopefully you guys find some value in that. All right. James says, got to do some Amtrak trip reports next. The Amtrak trip that I would like to do is down basically Highway 1 down the West Coast. Go from Seattle to San Diego or vice versa. That's the one that I would like to do. The one that goes from Seattle to Chicago, I think that's the Empire Builder. Once you get past Montana, it just I've driven through the Midwest. It just gets flat. I don't think I would like that. That's kind of why I'm doing this Winnipeg, because Winnipeg is kind of flat land, Great Plains extension from the U.S., right? And so I'm going from there to Vancouver. So the first we get on after dark, and so I'll be sleeping through the first part of the trip. Hopefully when we wake up, I should be able to see the mountains off on the distance, and then we'll be going through the mountains. So I specifically picked to get on at Winnipeg so I would maximize the amount of time I was going through the mountains. So David says, I have an SSD loaded up with dozens of films that can be viewed on my iPad or laptop. Yep. Excuse me, because I'm not using my phone for much of my filming, I will be downloading a bunch of stuff on my phone. So David says you can mount a GoPro on the rucksack straps. Yes, my backpack, as I would call it in the US, has a little strap right over here. So I just have to I need to get a little clip for my GoPro, and just so I can clip it in there as I walk around, and I got the wireless mic so I can walk and talk that way. Noel Phillips does that. That's where I've seen that. David says, I thought of doing the Empire Builder going west. Yeah. Again, the better scenery would be going west for sure. Having grown up in the Seattle area, very much looking forward to what should be just kind of some epic mountain scenery. One of the reasons I actually picked the Canadian version of this, I think I mentioned, I might have probably mentioned this. It feels like I mentioned it, but when I flew up to Alaska last summer, we flew basically up the coast of British Columbia and then in Alaska, and the mountains, uh, just beautiful. That was late in the summer, and they're so tall. There's still snow on the top. Um, just a beautiful plane trip. I highly recommend that. If you're going anywhere in the U.S. up to Canada or up to Alaska, try to sit. Actually, if you fly from Seattle, definitely sit on the right side. Um, just stunning scenery. So that's really what I'm looking forward to. I love that kind of scenery. So I need to figure out what lens I'm going to bring on my camera. I don't really want to bring a bunch of lenses. So I think I'm going to I might bring this lens that you're watching me on, which is my 21 millimeter, I think or 20 or 21 wide angle lens. Yeah, so I might bring that. It's a prime, so I might do that. We'll see. Anyway, I didn't think I was gonna make the full hour, but I did. So unless there are any last chats come in, I'm gonna sign off, and I will see you hopefully. Next stream should be the 29th of April. So I hope to see you then. Be on the lookout for a reminder of that. And remember, SpaceX launch Monday morning. Hopefully that goes. I wish I was in Texas for that, but they didn't announce it until just last week. So I need to call Elon and have him. No, see, that's the everyday astronaut is who would have that info, not me. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Hope you all have a great week, and I will see you on the 29th. All righty. Bye-bye.